2017 Ford Explorer dash cam install. I'm starting from the back by making sure that this camera with the included cable can reach from the mounting point, which is here, and wind down here through this tube, come back out through the roof, but underneath it still, go all the way to the side, and then wind up towards the rear view mirror. There are 7 clips that hold this trim piece in to the top of the lift gate. This is a double clip, and then there's a little latching piece that grabs onto this piece on both sides, and then there's 5 clips along the top. What I did was I just gently pried down with one of these guys to remove this section, and then I worked over here to release that. Once I did it, I thankfully didn't break anything and was able to continue by looking at what's here to remove that side. Next, we're going to pull this rubber boot out. You can do that just by wiggling it out. We're going to thread the wire through here and remove this weather strip. And then there's these clips right here. You can push towards the front of the car to remove them. There's one over there, but it's not coming up on the camera. This part's probably the hardest part so far. Feeding this through this boot is pretty difficult. The right angle USB mini didn't want to feed down, and it's lucky I didn't try that because this is all taped at the end. So you got to cut some of the tape or cut a hole in the side like I did. Feed it from under the roof and between the roof panel. Make sure you don't start up here, or else you might have a bad time trying to get it back down and wire it around. And then I was able to just keep pushing wire through and then grab needle nose to pull it through. This is about all I need in order to, it's actually probably more than I need in order to connect the camera. Before I finish running this wire all the way up to the front, I'm gonna make sure the camera's connected, and then just kind of throw the wire up front, make sure that I can power everything on and it actually sees the camera, because I don't want to have to redo this whole part because it's pretty tricky. The camera's currently plugged in. Car is turned on to accessory. You can see our rear view camera back there, and our front camera is currently covered, so we're not going to get anything, and I don't uncover it until I install it because I'm a klutz. Now that the camera's ran, I can mount the camera up here, put the trim back, and I'm going to leave this trim out so that if I need somewhere to put a bunch of wires, I have it back here instead of up there rattling around. To get this top trim piece off, I removed this piece, and to do that I removed this piece. This piece has these thumb screws for this rest. They're just quarter turn and then they just wiggle out. That's just to support the seats when they're folded flat. From there, there's a plastic trim piece that you can use one of these trim tools to pop up, and then you can lift up on the whole thing. It should just snap up. And then there's a screw here and a screw here that look like these guys, and you just hand loosen them. And then there are 2 trim pieces that I popped out, or clips I should say, right here. I think there's a further one back there, and there are more down here, but I didn't need them in order to get this. Trim piece is in place. Make sure that when you're putting the clips back in that the wire doesn't interfere. And now the wire's right out through that boot. We can run it all the way up. All right, so we're still running the wire all the way to the front. You can see I've removed this molding. That's so that the wire can be pulled from behind this molding, go in between the roof and the panel, and then I can continue running it all the way up through the airbag, or around the airbag, and then across the front of the windshield to get to where the camera's gonna be mounted. Now that we're up at the front, the wires ran all the way. We're gonna string it across, but we need to make sure we know where we want our camera. My other truck, I have it on the right side of the rear view mirror, just below, and it kind of hides it well so that it doesn't create an additional obstruction of your view. And then once we do that, we can pull all this slack back to the rear panel that I showed you earlier. Hard to see, but here's the film that we just applied. It's really hard to see. And now we're gonna adjust the slack in the cable. The film's a little clearer now. You can see the wire hanging. Got a little bit of slack that I can tuck in there, and I left a little bit of slack here if I need to pull more. And the rest is in this pillar right here. You can kind of see where I messed with the weather stripping, so I'll have to fix that. And then the rest is all tied up. Installation's mostly finished. I do have it plugged into a cigarette lighter currently, and I'm eventually going to hardwire it. I do have that kit, but I don't have time tonight. So now I'm just going to format the memory card and make sure everything's recording properly. Camera's all set up. It just turned off. It's been on for about a minute, but it's still recording. And one of the issues we're running into is that this plug and all the similar plugs, like the cigarette lighter ones, are always on when the car is off. No key, no fancy magic auto start accessory mode. Key has to be in the car. And for some reason, this always stays on. So I will need to hardwire it in sooner rather than later. Otherwise, I have to manually unplug it to turn it off. And as you already saw, it was powered on. So I will need to address that quickly. There you have it. How to wire a dash cam for front and rear on a 2017 Ford Explorer XLT. This should work on 2011s to 2019s. Not sure of any differences with earlier or later models.